Professor Taewon Park sat alone in the dim light of the Academy archives. The only sounds were the soft hum of the air system and the occasional beep from his data tablet. He had been here for 12 hours straight, digging through old war records. His eyes burned from staring at screens, but he couldn't stop now. Just one more file, he muttered to himself, rubbing his tired eyes. The Academy of Interstellar Defense had tasked him with organizing their oldest battle records. It was supposed to be simple work. Scan the old files, tag them properly, and move on. Perfect for a junior professor of military history. But what Taewon found made no sense at all. He pulled up another battle record, the brutal moon base siege of 2189. The death toll had been massive. Out of 300 defenders, only 7 survived. He scrolled through the survivor list, and there it was again. Service ID KH7734. Specialist Hana Kim Taewon frowned and pulled up another file. The Proxima Centauri Massacre, 2256. Over 2,000 colonists and soldiers dead. 12 survivors, and there among them, KH7734, Lieutenant Hana Kim. This can't be right, he said, voice echoing in the empty room. He opened more files. The Battle of New Seoul, 2341. The Titan mining disaster, 2412. The Epsilon front collapse, 2507. Each battle worse than the last, each with survival rates under 5%. And in every single one, that same ID number, that same name. Taewon sat back in his chair, mind racing. Either the records were wrong or something impossible was happening. He pulled up the personnel database and searched for KH7734. The screen flashed. Active duty. Active? That's not possible. He entered his professor clearance code and waited. The file opened, showing a woman with short black hair and sharp, serious eyes. According to the record, Commander Hana Kim was currently serving as a combat instructor at the Academy's remote training facility on Ganghwa Island. The birth date field simply read, classified. Taewon checked the time, nearly midnight. He should go home, sleep, think about this with a clear head. Instead, he sent a message requesting a meeting with Commander Kim, citing historical research purposes. The reply came almost instantly. Approved. 0900 tomorrow. Ganghwa Combat Training Facility. The shuttle ride to Ganghwa Island took 40 minutes. Taewon spent it reviewing his notes, trying to make sense of what he'd found. The training facility came into view. A sprawling complex of gray buildings perched on rocky cliffs above the sea. A young officer met him at the landing pad. Professor Park? I'm Lieutenant Do. Commander Kim is finishing a training session. I'll take you to observe. They walked through cold hallways until they reached a large room with a viewing window. Below, 20 cadets in training gear moved through a simulated battlefield. Holographic enemies appeared from all sides. Most of the cadets were hit within seconds, their suits flashing red to show they were dead. But at the center of the chaos stood a small woman, moving with impossible speed and precision. She took down holographic enemies one after another, never wasting a movement. When the simulation ended, she was the only one still alive. That's Commander Kim, Lieutenant Do said with obvious respect. Best combat instructor in the Academy. Some say the best fighter in human history. Taewon stared at the woman. She looked to be in her mid-30s with the same sharp eyes from the personnel file. Nothing about her suggested she could be centuries old. The commander dismissed her students, then looked up at the viewing window. Her eyes locked with Taewon's, and he felt a chill. Those were not the eyes of a normal person. They held something ancient and hard. 5 minutes later, she entered the viewing room. Up close, Commander Kim was smaller than he expected, barely reaching his shoulder. But she carried herself with absolute authority. Professor Park, she said, her voice cool and controlled. You wanted to see me about historical research? Yes, Commander. I'm working on digitizing the Academy's oldest battle records. And this concerns me how? Her face gave nothing away. Taewon took a deep breath. Your service ID appears in records dating back to 2189. The same ID, the same name. In battles spanning over 300 years. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she turned to Lieutenant Do. Leave us. When they were alone, Commander Kim walked to the window, looking out at the training grounds below. How many records have you accessed? She asked, enough to see the pattern. You appear in the worst battles in human history, the ones with the highest death rates, and somehow you always survive. She turned to face him. And what do you think that means, Professor? I don't know. A record-keeping error? A family tradition of using the same name and ID? Or, he hesitated. Or something impossible. A small smile touched her lips. Follow me. Commander Kim's office was small and plain. No pictures, no personal items. Just a desk, 2 chairs, and a wall of old paper books, real books, not digital ones. She closed the door and activated a privacy field. Sit, she said, pointing to a chair. What I'm about to tell you is classified beyond your clearance level. If you repeat it, they'll erase your memory. Or worse. Tae-Wan sat, his heart beating faster. Who is they? The same people who've been sending me into hell for the past 3 centuries. She sat across from him. What do you know about the early super soldier programs? They failed, he said. The genetic modifications caused cancer. The cybernetics rejected. The neural enhancements drove subjects insane. Most did fail, she agreed. But not all. She rolled up her sleeve and pressed a spot on her wrist. Lines of blue light appeared under her skin, tracing patterns like circuit boards through her arm. Project Eternal Soldier, she said. I was the only success. Innate regeneration, cellular preservation, enhanced reflexes and strength. I don't age. I heal from almost anything, and I remember everything. Tae-Wan stared at the glowing lines. That's impossible. You've seen the records. You know it's not. The blue light faded as she rolled her sleeve down. The project was classified, then forgotten as administrations changed. But someone always remembers enough to use me. Use you? Think about the battles you found me in, Professor. What do they have in common? Tae-Wan thought about it. They were all disasters. High casualty rates, unexpected enemy tactics or technology. Exactly. When the military faces something new and deadly, they send me in. I'm their canary in the coal mine. If I survive, I bring back data on how to fight the new threat. If I don't, she shrugged. I always do eventually. Even death isn't permanent for me. The implications hit Tae-Wan like a physical blow. You've died? Many times. The nanites rebuild me. It takes longer, depending on the damage. The worst was the Titan mining disaster. Took me 3 years to regenerate from that one. Tae-Wan tried to process what she was saying. Why are you telling me this? Commander Kim leaned forward. Because you found the pattern on your own, and because I need someone to understand what's happening now. What do you mean? The Academy has ordered me to prepare for a new mission. Something they're calling Operation Harbinger. They're being more secretive than usual, which means it's worse than anything I've faced before. Her eyes held his. I think they're expecting something that even I won't survive. What could be that bad? She stood and walked to her bookshelf, pulling down an old paper map of the stars. Something's coming from this region. Something that has the highest levels of the Academy terrified. Tae-Wan looked at where she was pointing. The Epsilon sector? There's nothing out there but research outposts. Not anymore. 3 outposts have gone silent in the past month. No distress calls. No signs of attack, just silence. Her face was grim. They're sending a fleet. And me? When? 3 days. She rolled up the map. Before I go, I need someone to know the truth. Someone to record what I've seen. The real history of humanity's wars, not the sanitized version they teach at the Academy. Tae-Wan felt the weight of her words. Why me? Because you saw the pattern when no one else did. Because you asked questions. She handed him a small data chip. This contains my personal records. 300 years of warfare. The truth about what we've faced. What we've done. He took the chip, his hand trembling slightly. What do you want me to do with this? Learn from it. And if I don't come back from Epsilon, make sure others learn too. Her eyes, those ancient eyes in a young face, held his. The Academy prepares for war, Professor Park. But they don't prepare for what comes after survival. Tae-Wan couldn't sleep that night. The data chip Commander Kim had given him sat on his desk, seeming to glow in the darkness of his small Academy apartment. His mind raced with questions. Was she telling the truth? Could someone really live for centuries, fighting in humanity's worst battles? At 3 a.m. he gave up on sleep. He inserted the chip into his secure tablet and began to read. The files were organized by date, starting in 2189. The first entry was labeled Europa Base Incident, Personal Account. Tae-Wan opened it and began to read. The next morning, Tae-Wan returned to Gangwa Island. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his mind was sharp with purpose. He found Commander Kim in the training yard, running a group of cadets through hand-to-hand combat drills. She spotted him and nodded slightly. Continue the drill pattern, she ordered the cadets, then walked over to Taiwan. You read it, she said. It wasn't a question. I read the Europa account, he confirmed. I need to know more. She studied his face. Follow me. They walked to a small building near the edge of the cliff. Inside was a simple room with 2 chairs and a table. The walls were soundproof and a signal jammer sat on the table. This is where I debrief special operations teams, she explained. No recordings. No monitoring. They sat across from each other. Commander Kim activated the jammer, then looked at Taewon expectantly. The Europa account, he began. You wrote that you were part of a science security team. That something was found under the ice. That's right. But the official record says it was a life support failure. An accident? She smiled without humor. The official record is a lie. It usually is. You wrote that 17 people survived out of a base of 200, that you led them through ice tunnels for 6 days while being hunted. Yes. Hunted by what? Taewon asked, leaning forward. Commander Kim was quiet for a moment. How much do you know about first contact scenarios, Professor? The standard history. Humanity's first alien encounter was with the Arcturus Trade Coalition in 2231. She shook her head. That was our first official contact. Not our first encounter. Taewon felt a chill. Europa was first contact? In 2189? Yes, and it went very badly. She leaned back in her chair. The Europa base was drilling into the subsurface ocean. They broke through and found structures. Artificial structures. They thought they were ruins. They weren't? No, they were more like nests. Dormant until we disturbed them. Her eyes grew distant. The creatures moved through ice like it was water. They could reshape their bodies to fit through tiny spaces, and they were hungry after their long sleep. Taewon tried to imagine it. How did anyone survive? I figured out they hunted by body heat. So we used that against them, created heat sources as distractions, moved during the brief periods when they returned to the water to process what they had consumed. The clinical way she described it made it more disturbing, not less. And you led the survivors out? Yes, 17 people. We reached the emergency shuttle on the 6th day. By then, the creatures had consumed everyone else at the base. What happened after? Why isn't this in any history book? Commander Kim's face hardened. Because 3 days after we escaped, the military dropped 5 nuclear devices into Europa's ocean. They said it was to prevent contamination. Really, it was to bury the evidence. Evidence of what? Of their mistake. They knew something was down there before they sent the science team. Long-range scans had detected movement. But they wanted samples, technology. They thought whatever was there would be dead or primitive. She shook her head. They were wrong. Taewon sat back trying to process this. And the survivors? The other 16? Most were treated for trauma at military facilities. Their memories were altered. Some had complete blocks installed. Others were given false memories of an accident. But not you. They tried. The nanites in my system rejected the memory drugs, and I was too valuable to dispose of, so they classified everything and reassigned me. Her smile was bitter. That became the pattern. Send me into danger, learn from what I encounter, hide the truth. Taewon thought about the implications. So the official history of human expansion is mostly lies, she finished. We didn't just encounter peaceful trading species or empty worlds. We found horrors, things that defied understanding, things that killed in ways we couldn't comprehend. And you were the test subject, the one sent to learn how they killed? Yes, because I could come back, even from death. Taewon hesitated, then asked the question that had kept him awake all night. In your Europa account, you mentioned that you were 28 years old, that it was your 3rd military assignment. That's right, so you were normal then? Human? For the first time, Commander Kim looked uncomfortable. I was born in 2161, grew up in New Seoul, joined the military at 18. I was a normal soldier until 2192. What happened in 2192? After Europa, I was noticed by certain people in military intelligence. They approached me about a special medical program that would help humanity defend itself. I was young, idealistic. I believed them. She looked down at her hands. Project Eternal Soldier took 2 years. The procedures were painful. Most subjects died. I wished I had many times, but you survived. I survived. And when it was done, I wasn't aging anymore. Wounds healed in hours. Even fatal ones would eventually repair, though that took longer. And they started sending you into the worst situations. Yes. At first, they told me I was saving lives, that my reports helped them develop better tactics, better weapons. And sometimes that was true. She looked out the window at the ocean beyond. But over time, I realized I was just a tool. A way to gather data without risking real people. The bitterness in her voice was raw, despite the centuries that had passed. The Proxima Centauri massacre, Taewon said. That was in your files too. 2256. Yes, by then I'd been fighting for over 60 years. I'd seen things most humans couldn't imagine. What really happened there? The official record says it was a colonial uprising. Commander Kim laughed, a short, harsh sound. Is that what they're teaching now? It wasn't colonists. It was a psychic parasite, something that could take over human minds, make them turn on each other. Taewon felt sick. How do you fight something like that? Brutally. Her eyes met his, challenging him to judge her. I had to kill people who were still technically alive but no longer themselves. Friends, colleagues, children. The record says 12 people survived. 12 uninfected. I got them to the bunker, sealed it, then went hunting. It took 19 days to clear the colony. By the end, I was the only one still moving through those streets. And afterward, the military quarantined the planet. Said it was a virus. They studied my blood, my brain patterns, tried to figure out why I was immune to the parasite's influence. She shrugged. They never did figure it out completely, but they developed better neural shields because of what they learned. Taewon was quiet for a moment, trying to absorb it all. How do you do it? How do you keep going, century after century? Commander Kim's expression softened slightly. I adapt, I learn. I change my name sometimes, take different assignments, but always I end up back in combat. It's what I know. Don't you get tired? Don't you want to stop? Every day. The simple honesty in her voice was startling. But what choice do I have? I can't die. Not permanently. And my skills are needed, even now. With Operation Harbinger, her face grew serious again. Especially now. Something is coming, Professor. Something worse than Europa or Proxima Centauri. I can feel it. What do you think it is? I don't know yet. But the Academy is scared. Really scared. And that means we all should be. She stood up, signaling the end of their conversation. Come back tomorrow. I'll tell you about New Seoul. You should know what really happened there. As Taewon left the island that day, he looked back at the training facility. Commander Kim stood at the cliff edge looking out at the sea. A small figure carrying centuries of war within her, the woman who couldn't die, preparing once again to face the darkness between the stars. Taewon arrived at Gangwon Island earlier than planned the next day. His mind was full of questions after reading more of Commander Kim's files overnight. The New Seoul battle had been particularly disturbing. Nothing, like what the history books described, he found the training yard empty except for Commander Kim. She was moving through combat forms with a short blade. Her movements so fast they blurred. When she saw him, she stopped and sheathed the weapon. You're early, she said. I couldn't sleep. I read about New Seoul. She nodded and gestured for him to follow her. They walked along the cliff edge, away from the training buildings. The morning air was cool and waves crashed against the rocks below. New Seoul, she said after they had walked in silence for a while. That was 2341, one of the worst. The history books say it was an attack by the Orion separatists, that they used banned weapons. The separatists were blamed, yes. Convenient enemies. She stopped walking and looked out at the ocean. But it wasn't them. It was something we created ourselves. What do you mean? Have you heard of Project Mirror? Taewon shook his head. It was a secret weapons program. They were trying to create soldiers who could change their appearance. Become anyone. The perfect spies and assassins. Her face was grim. They succeeded too well. What happened? The subjects escaped. They could look like anyone. Your friend, your family member, your commanding officer. And they were angry about what had been done to them. She picked up a stone and threw it far out into the water. They infiltrated New Seoul and started replacing people in positions of power. By the time anyone realized what was happening, they controlled half the city. How did you stop them? With difficulty. They could look like anyone. But they couldn't copy memories perfectly. So I developed a system. Challenge questions about personal details. Things only the real person would know. She looked at him. It wasn't enough. People still died. Friends killed friends because they got a question wrong or because they thought the real person was the copy. Taewon tried to imagine the chaos, the fear. The records say you led the final assault on their headquarters. Yes, with just 30 soldiers I was absolutely sure were human. We fought our way to their central hub. Found their leader. She paused. He was wearing my face when I killed him. The image was chilling. And afterward? The military cleaned it up. Blamed terrorists. The mirror subjects were classified. The project was shut down. Officially, at least. They resumed walking. Taewon noticed that Commander Kim moved with perfect balance on the uneven path, never stumbling or hesitating. I've been thinking about all these battles, he said. Europa, Proxima Centauri, New Sol, the others in your files. There's a pattern. What kind of pattern? You're always sent in after the situation is already bad. Never to prevent the disaster, only to deal with it once it's happened. Commander Kim gave him a sharp look. Go on. It's like someone wants these disasters to happen, to see how bad they get, and then they send you in to clean up and bring back data. She stopped walking again. You're more perceptive than most professors I've met. Am I right? Yes, I realized it myself about 100 years ago. I'm not sent to prevent tragedies. I'm sent to study them. Her voice was flat. I'm a data collection tool. The academy and the military want to know what works against different threats, how to fight, how to survive, and I'm their perfect test subject. That's horrible, Taewon said. It's practical, she replied, though her eyes showed she agreed with him. One immortal soldier suffers so thousands of normal ones can live. But they're using you. Yes, and I've let them because the alternative is worse. If they don't learn from me, more people die when these threats appear again. She started walking once more, faster now. But lately I've been wondering if there's another way. They reached a small lookout point with a bench facing the sea. Commander Kim sat down and Taewon joined her. I've been gathering my own data, she said, not just on how to fight, but on patterns. Who makes the decisions? Who benefits from these disasters? Who might be causing them? You think someone is deliberately creating these threats? Not all of them. But some, yes. The mirror subjects, for example. That was our own weapon turned against us. And there have been others. She pulled a small device from her pocket and activated it. A holographic display appeared between them, showing a complex web of names, dates, and locations. This is my own research. Connections between military projects, corporate interests, and unexpected disasters. Look here. She pointed to a cluster of points. These 5 events all connect back to the same research division. And here, she pointed to another section. These 3 disasters happened right after budget reviews threatened to cut funding for certain weapons programs. Taewon studied the display. You're saying some of these disasters were allowed to happen? Or even caused deliberately? I'm saying there's a pattern. And it goes all the way to the top of the academy. She deactivated the device. That's why I'm telling you all this. Because Operation Harbinger feels different, bigger, and I'm not sure who I can trust anymore. What do you know about Harbinger so far? Not much. Just that it involves the Epsilon sector, and that they're preparing a larger force than usual to accompany me. She frowned. That's unusual. Normally they send me in with minimal support. More data on survival that way. When do you leave? Tomorrow. The briefing is this afternoon. She looked at him directly. I want you to come with me. Taewon was startled. To the briefing?
Yes, as my historical consultant.
They'll allow it. They think you're just documenting past battles. But why do you want me there? Because you see patterns too. You might notice something I miss. She stood up. And because I need someone on the outside who knows what's really happening. In case I don't come back this time. The thought was unsettling. You always come back. That's what the records show, so far. But there's always a first time for everything, even for me. Her eyes were serious. Will you come? Taewon nodded. Yes, I'll come. The briefing room was deep underground beneath the main academy building on the mainland. Taewon followed Commander Kim through multiple security checkpoints. At each one, guards checked their IDs and scanned them for weapons or recording devices. The room itself was plain, with a large table and screens on the walls. 5 people were already seated when they entered. Taewon recognized Director Kang, head of the Academy's strategic division. The others were high-ranking military officers. Commander Kim, Director Kang said, his voice cool. And Professor Park, I wasn't aware you were bringing a guest. Professor Park is assisting me with historical context, Commander Kim replied. His clearance was approved yesterday. Director Kang frowned but nodded. Very well. Let's begin. The lights dimmed and a star map appeared on the main screen. Director Kang pointed to a section labeled Epsilon Sector. 3 weeks ago, we lost contact with Research Outpost E7. A week later, E4 and E9 also went silent. No distress calls. No signs of attack. Just complete silence. And what were they researching? Commander Kim asked. Various projects. E7 was studying stellar phenomena. E4 was a deep space listening post. E9 was biological research. Taewon noticed that Director Kang's answer was vague. He glanced at Commander Kim and saw that she had noticed too. We sent a scout ship to investigate, Director Kang continued. It transmitted this before we lost contact. The screen changed to show grainy footage from a ship's external camera. At first there was nothing unusual, just stars and the edge of a small research station. Then something moved across the screen. It was hard to make out, like a shadow that didn't quite match any object. The footage became distorted, then cut out. What was that? One of the officers asked. We don't know, Director Kang admitted. But whatever it is, it's spreading. We've detected similar disturbances near 2 more outposts. And you want me to go see what it is, Commander Kim said. It wasn't a question. Yes, you'll lead a special team. Your mission is to reach E7, gather data, and if possible, contain the threat. Contain it how? Director Kang pressed a button, and an image of a device appeared on the screen. This is the Thanatos Protocol, a weapon of last resort. If the threat cannot be contained by conventional means, you are authorized to deploy it. Taewon studied the device. It looked like a small cylinder with complex mechanisms inside. What does it do? Commander Kim asked. That's classified, Commander. All you need to know is that it will stop the threat. Director Kang's face was expressionless. Your team leaves at 600 tomorrow. Any questions? Commander Kim was silent for a moment. Just one. Am I expected to return from this mission, Director? The room grew very quiet. Director Kang's eyes narrowed slightly. All missions carry risk, Commander. You know that better than anyone. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Director Kang stood up. Dismissed. As they left the briefing room, Taewon could feel the tension radiating from Commander Kim. Once they were alone in the elevator, she spoke. They're hiding something. Something big, I noticed, Taewon agreed. The Thanatos Protocol, they wouldn't tell you what it does. Because they don't expect me to survive using it. Her face was grim. This might be it, Professor. The mission I don't come back from. What are you going to do? The elevator doors opened and she stepped out. I'm going to prepare. And you're going to keep digging. Find out what they're not telling us about the Epsilon sector. How? Use your access. Look for patterns like we discussed. She handed him a small device. If you find anything, use this to contact me. It's secure. As they parted ways, Taewon felt a growing sense of dread. The pattern was clear now. Commander Kim was being sent into another deadly situation. But this time, even she seemed uncertain about her chances of survival. Taewon worked through the night in his office at the academy. With his new security clearance from the Harbinger briefing, he could access more restricted files. He searched for anything related to the Epsilon sector, the research outposts, or the Thanatos Protocol. Most files were heavily redacted or completely locked. But Taewon was good at finding connections, at seeing patterns in seemingly unrelated data. By 3 a.m., he had built a rough timeline of events in the Epsilon sector. This doesn't make sense, he muttered to himself, staring at his notes. According to the records, Research Outpost E9 had been studying non-standard communication methods. But buried in supply manifests, Taewon found shipments of advanced containment equipment and weapons. Why would a communication research station need those? He dug deeper into E7's records. Officially, it was studying stellar phenomena. But its power usage was 10 times what such research would require. And its staff included military personnel with backgrounds in weapons development. E4 was the most mysterious. Listed as a deep space listening post, it had received regular shipments marked only as special project materials. No details on what those materials were. Taewon rubbed his tired eyes. A pattern was emerging, but he couldn't quite see it yet. He needed more information. He decided to try a different approach. Instead of looking at what the outposts were doing, he looked at who had authorized their creation. All three had been established under the same directive, signed by Director Kang 5 years ago. Taewon searched for other projects under that directive. He found one, Project Beacon. The file was almost entirely classified, but one sentence caught his eye. Attempt contact using modified signal based on artifacts recovered from Proxima Centauri site. Proxima Centauri, where Commander Kim had faced the psychic parasite in 2256. Taewon's heart began to race. He pulled up Commander Kim's personal account of that incident and read it again carefully. Near the end, she mentioned that the military had recovered unusual devices from the parasite's nest. Devices that seemed to emit signals into space. They were calling something, he whispered, the pieces finally clicking together. The Academy hadn't just been studying the artifacts. They had been using them, trying to make contact with whatever the parasites had been communicating with. And now something had answered. Taewon grabbed the secure device Commander Kim had given him and sent a message. Need to talk, urgent, found connection to Proxima. The reply came seconds later. Meet at Shuttle Bay 30500. Taewon arrived at the shuttle bay as the first light of dawn was breaking. Commander Kim was already there, dressed in full combat gear. Her face was serious as she led him to a quiet corner away from the busy preparations. What did you find? She asked without preamble. Taewon explained his discoveries, the true nature of the research outposts, Project Beacon, the connection to the Proxima Centauri artifacts. They've been trying to make contact with whatever the parasites were signaling, he finished. And I think they succeeded. Commander Kim's face had grown increasingly grim as he spoke. I knew they kept some of those artifacts. I didn't know they were stupid enough to activate them. There's more, Taewon said. I found references to the Thanatos Protocol. It's not just a weapon. It's a dimensional disruptor. What does that mean? It creates a tear in spacetime. A controlled one, but still incredibly dangerous. It's designed to seal off an area from our universe completely. Commander Kim was silent for a moment. So they're not expecting me to contain this threat. They're expecting me to lock it away, along with myself and my team. I think so, yes, she nodded, as if this confirmed what she had already suspected. A suicide mission, then. Not my first. But you always came back before, Taewon said. This is different. If that device works the way I think it does, there's no coming back, not even for you. Perhaps that's the point. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. Maybe I've become a liability. I know too much about their mistakes, their secrets. What are you going to do? Before she could answer, a voice called out, Commander Kim, 5 minutes to departure. She looked at Taewon. I'm going to do my job, but not the way they expect. She reached into a pocket and handed him a data chip. This contains everything. All my records, all my suspicions about the Academy's true purposes. If I don't return, make it public. They'll try to stop me. Yes, that's why I've made arrangements. She gave him a small piece of paper with an address. Go here if things get bad. Ask for Sunmi. She'll help you. Who is she? Someone like me. There aren't many of us, but we exist. The Academy's other projects that didn't go quite as planned. She put a hand on his shoulder. Be careful, Professor. Once you start seeing the patterns, they'll see you as a threat. A shuttle engine roared to life nearby. Commander Kim glanced toward it, then back at Taewon. One last thing, she said. If I do come back, I might not be myself. The Proxima parasite could alter minds. Whatever answered their call might be able to do worse. How will I know? Ask me about the book I keep by my bed. The real answer is The Art of War, my mother's copy. Anything else means I'm compromised. With that, she turned and walked toward the waiting shuttle. Taewon watched as she joined a team of 20 soldiers, all heavily armed. None of them knew they might be on a one-way trip. As the shuttle lifted off, Taewon clutched the data chip tightly. He had work to do. 3 days passed with no news from the Epsilon mission. Taewon tried to continue his normal duties at the Academy, but his mind was constantly on Commander Kim and what she might be facing. He used his time to carefully examine her complete records. The pattern he had noticed before became even clearer. For centuries, the Academy had been using her as a test subject, sending her into increasingly dangerous situations to gather data on threats to humanity. But there was another pattern too, one that Commander Kim herself had identified. Many of these threats were not random. They were the results of the Academy's own experiments gone wrong. Weapons that backfired, attempts to control forces they didn't understand. On the fourth day, Taiwan was summoned to Director Kang's office. He tucked Commander Kim's data chip into a hidden pocket before he went. Director Kang's office was large and austere, with a view of the Academy grounds. The man himself sat behind a massive desk, his face unreadable. "Professor Park," he said as Taiwan entered. "Please sit down." Taiwan sat, keeping his face neutral. "You wanted to see me, Director?" "Yes, I understand you've been accessing classified files related to the Epsilon sector." "As part of my historical research, yes. Commander Kim asked me to provide context for her mission." Director Kang studied him for a moment. "Your access has been quite thorough, including files not directly related to historical battles. History is about connections, Director. Understanding the full context." "Indeed." Director Kang tapped his fingers on the desk. "We've lost contact with Commander Kim's team." Taiwan felt his heart sink, but he kept his expression steady. "All of them?" "Yes. Their last transmission came 36 hours ago. They had reached Outpost E7 and found it changed." "Changed how?" Director Kang activated a screen on the wall. It showed grainy footage from what appeared to be a soldier's helmet camera. The image showed corridors that seemed to shift and warp, as if the very structure of the building was fluid. Strange shadows moved in ways that didn't match the lighting. "This was the last thing we received," Director Kang said, along with Commander Kim's voice saying they were proceeding to the central lab. "And then nothing?" "Nothing." Director Kang turned off the screen. "We're preparing a second mission. A full military response this time. To rescue them? To contain the situation?" Director Kang's voice was cold. "Whatever is happening at those outposts cannot be allowed to spread." "You're going to use another Thanatos protocol," Taiwan realized. "You're going to seal off the entire sector." Director Kang's eyes narrowed. "You seem very well informed about classified weapons technology, Professor." "I'm good at connecting dots," Taiwan replied, meeting the director's gaze. "Like the connection between Project Beacon and the Proxima Centauri artifacts." The room grew very quiet. Director Kang's face hardened. "You've overstepped your clearance, Professor. Those connections are beyond your authority to investigate." "Are they? Or are you just trying to hide another Academy mistake? Another weapon that backfired?" Director Kang stood up slowly. "I think you've been spending too much time with Commander Kim. You're starting to sound like her, paranoid. Seeing conspiracies where there are only necessary security measures. Is that why you sent her on a suicide mission? Because she knew too much? Commander Kim is a valuable asset. But she is also a soldier. She goes where she is ordered." Director Kang pressed a button on his desk. "This conversation is over, Professor. Your access to all classified materials is hereby revoked. You will return to your regular teaching duties and forget about the Epsilon sector." The door opened, and 2 security officers entered. "These officers will escort you to your office, where you will turn over any notes or data related to classified projects." Director Kang's voice was final. "If you cooperate, this incident won't affect your position at the Academy." Taiwan stood up. "And if I don't cooperate?" "Then you'll find that the Academy has ways of ensuring compliance." Director Kang's smile was cold. "Ways that Commander Kim could tell you about if she were here." As the security officers let him out, Taiwan thought about the data chip hidden in his pocket, about the address Commander Kim had given him, about patterns that, once seen, couldn't be unseen. The Academy had made a mistake. They had awakened something in the Epsilon sector, something connected to the horrors Commander Kim had faced centuries ago. And now they were trying to cover it up, just as they had covered up so many disasters before. But this time, someone knew the truth, and Taiwan was determined to make sure that truth wouldn't disappear, even if Commander Kim never returned. The security officers escorted Taiwan to his office and watched as he gathered his research materials. He handed over the official files and his notes, careful to keep Commander Kim's data chip hidden in his secret pocket. "Is that everything, Professor?" one of the officers asked. "Yes, that's all," Taiwan lied, keeping his face calm. The officers searched his desk and computer, then nodded. "You're restricted to teaching duties only. No archive access. Director Kang will review your status next week." After they left, Taiwan sat at his empty desk thinking. The Academy was clearly hiding something major about the Epsilon mission. And now Commander Kim was missing, possibly dead, even with her remarkable abilities to survive. He needed to act quickly. He took out the piece of paper with the address Commander Kim had given him. It was in the old district of the city, far from the Academy grounds. Taewon waited until evening, then left his apartment, careful to avoid the security cameras he now noticed everywhere. He took a public transport, then walked the last few blocks to be sure he wasn't followed. The address led to a small tea shop tucked between larger buildings. A faded sign read Sun's Tea House. Inside, a few customers sat at wooden tables drinking from simple cups. Behind the counter stood an elderly woman with sharp eyes and a straight back. Taewon approached her. "Excuse me, are you Sunmi?" The woman studied him carefully. "Who's asking?" "Commander Kim sent me. She said you could help if things went bad." At the mention of Commander Kim, the woman's expression changed. "Follow me." She led him through a back door and down a narrow hallway to a small office. Once inside, she closed the door and activated what looked like a signal jammer similar to the one Commander Kim had used. "So Hana is in trouble again," the woman said, sitting down behind a desk. "Hana?" Taewon asked, confused. "Commander Kim, that's her real name, her original name. Hana Kim." The woman smiled slightly. "I'm Sunmi Park. We were in Project Eternal Soldier together." Taewon stared at her. "You're like her?" "You don't age." "Not exactly like her. The nanites in my system work differently. I can't heal from death like she can. But I don't age and I heal quickly from most injuries." She looked at him closely. "What happened to Hana?" Taewon explained everything. The Epsilon mission, the Thanatos protocol, the connection to Proxima Centauri, and Commander Kim's disappearance. Sunmi listened without interrupting. When he finished, she sighed deeply. The fools never learn. They keep poking at things they don't understand, and then they send Hana to clean up their mess. "She gave me this," Taewon said, taking out the data chip. "All her records. Everything she knows about the Academy's secret projects. She wanted me to make it public if she didn't return." Sunmi took the chip and inserted it into a secure reader. "This is dangerous information, Professor. The Academy will kill to keep it secret." "I know, but people need to know the truth." "Truth is rarely simple," Sunmi said, scanning through the files. "And this truth could cause panic. Wars even. So we do nothing. Let the Academy keep making the same mistakes?" Sunmi looked up at him. "No, we do something. But we need to be smart about it." She removed the chip and handed it back to him. "First, we need to know what really happened to Hana. She survived worse than this." "How do we find out?" "The Academy has cut off my access. I have my own sources." Sunmi stood up. "Wait here." She left the room, returning 10 minutes later with a small device. "This is a secure comm link to a friend who works in Academy communications. He's sending us the last transmissions from the Epsilon mission." They waited in silence. After a few minutes, the device beeped and Sunmi activated it. A holographic display appeared, showing a series of message logs. "These are the final communications from Hana's team," Sunmi explained. "The last ones before they went silent." Taewon leaned forward to read. "Mission log. Epsilon Team Day 2, Aero 800. Arrived at Outpost E7. No signs of life. Structure appears intact but wrong somehow. Walls seem to shift when not directly observed. Day 2, 10:30. Found first bodies. Scientist, security team. Cause of death unclear. No visible wounds, but bodies are changed. Tissue has altered at cellular level. Day 2, 12:45. Discovered central lab. Evidence of experiment involving Proxima artifacts. Commander Kim recognizes technology from previous encounter. Day 2, 1400. Commander Kim reports psychic pressure similar to Proxima incident but vastly stronger. 3 team members experiencing hallucinations. Day 2, 1630. Commander Kim ordering retreat to shuttle. Entity manifesting throughout station. Thanatos protocol to be deployed remotely. Day 2, 1642. Emergency override. Commander Kim reporting discovery in lab data. Critical information. Academy must abort Project Beacon immediately. The signal is not... The log ended there, that's it? Taewon asked. What did she discover? I don't know, Sunmi said, her face grim. But that last message, it was cut off. Not by transmission failure, but by an override from Academy Command. They silenced her deliberately, Taewon realized. They didn't want to hear what she found. It seems that way. Sunmi deactivated the device. The question is why? What did Hana discover that was so dangerous the Academy would rather lose contact with her team than hear it? Before Taewon could respond, an alert sounded from Sunmi's security system. She quickly checked a monitor on her desk. Academy security forces, she said. 6 of them approaching the tea shop. They must have tracked you here. What do? We leave, now. Sunmi pressed a hidden button and a section of the wall slid open, revealing a narrow passage. This leads to the old subway tunnels. We can get away underground. As they hurried through the passage, Taewon asked, "Where are we going?" To someone who might be able to help us understand what Hana found. Another survivor from the early days. Sunmi's face was determined. If the Academy is willing to sacrifice Hana after all these centuries, something truly dangerous is happening. They traveled through the dark tunnels for hours, eventually emerging in an industrial area far from the city center. Sunmi led Taewon to an old warehouse that had been converted into a living space. Inside, a man was working at a complex computer setup. "Jin-ho," Sunmi called. "We need your help." The man turned. He appeared to be in his 40s with streaks of gray in his hair. But his eyes were old, ancient like Commander Kim's. "Sunmi," he said. "It's been a while." He looked at Taewon. "Who's your friend?" "Professor Taewon Park from the Academy. He's been working with Hana." Jin-ho's eyebrows rose. "Hana let someone from the Academy get close?" "That's new." "She's missing," Taewon said. "On a mission to the Epsilon sector. Something to do with Proxima Centauri artifacts." Jin-ho's face darkened. "Those fools. They're messing with the signal again." "The signal?" Taewon asked. "Sit down," Jin-ho said. "This is a long story." They sat at a table while Jin-ho brought up displays on his computer. "I was part of the original research team at Proxima," he explained, "before the parasites attacked. We found artifacts, devices that emitted a specific pattern of energy. We called it the signal." "What did it do?" Taewon asked. "It reached across dimensions. Opened doorways, you could say." Jin-ho's face was grim. "The parasites were just the first things to come through. Scouts. We shut it down before anything worse could follow. And now the Academy has reactivated it," Sunmi said. "Worse, based on what you've told me. They've amplified it." Jin-ho pulled up a star chart. "The Epsilon sector is at a cosmic weak point, a place where the barriers between dimensions are naturally thinner. If they used the artifacts there, they could have opened a much bigger doorway," Taewon finished. "Exactly." Jin-ho looked troubled. "And if Hana discovered this, she would have tried to shut it down. The Thanatos protocol might actually work for that, seal off the breach. But the Academy cut her off before she could tell them what she found." Sunmi said. "Because someone at the Academy wants the doorway open," Jin-ho replied. "They always have. Some faction that believes whatever is on the other side could give humanity an advantage. Power, weapons, knowledge." Taewon thought about Director Kang's cold eyes, about the pattern of deliberate disasters Commander Kim had identified. "So what do we do now?" he asked. Before anyone could answer, all the lights in the warehouse flickered. Jin-ho's computers beeped urgent warnings. "Energy surge," he said, checking his readings. "Massive. Coming from—" His face paled. "The Academy. They've activated something big." Sunmi turned on a newsfeed. The emergency broadcast system was active, showing footage of a strange light spreading over the Academy grounds. "Unknown phenomenon has appeared at the Interstellar Defense Academy," a reporter was saying, voice shaking. "Authorities are evacuating the surrounding area." The camera showed the Academy buildings warping, changing, as if reality itself was bending. The light pulsed, growing stronger. "It's a breach," Jin-ho whispered. "They've opened a full doorway. Can we stop it?" Taewon asked. "I don't know. Maybe if we had Hana's knowledge of the Thanatos protocol." He was interrupted by a pounding at the warehouse door. Sunmi checked the security camera and gasped, "It's Hana!" They rushed to open the door. Commander Kim stumbled in, but she was changed. Half her body seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. Patterns like circuit boards glowed beneath her skin, but they were different from the nanite patterns Taewon had seen before. More complex, alien. "Hana!" Sunmi caught her as she stumbled. "What happened to you?" Commander Kim looked up, her eyes now glowing with the same strange light. "The doorway," I couldn't close it. They wouldn't let me. Who wouldn't let you? Taewon asked, approaching cautiously. She turned to him. Professor Park, did you read my records? Did you see the pattern? Yes, he said. The Academy has been creating disasters using you to gather data. Not just data, she said, her voice strained. They've been preparing for them. She gestured at her transformed body, the ones on the other side. They've been trying to come through for centuries. What do they want? Jinho asked. Everything. Our world. Our bodies. Our minds. Commander Kim straightened with visible effort. I managed to escape when they opened the main doorway at the Academy. But I'm changed. They're partly in me now. Taewon remembered her warning. Commander Kim, what book do you keep by your bed? She looked at him, a faint smile on her face. The Art of War, my mother's copy. Relief washed over him. Despite her transformation, she was still herself. How do we stop this? Sunmi asked. We can't stop it completely. It's too late for that. Commander Kim moved to Jinho's computers. But I learned something in there. On the other side, the Thanatos protocol can be modified. Instead of sealing off a section of our reality, it can push the invaders back and seal the doorway from their side. How? Jinho asked. I need to go back. Take the modified protocol to the center of the breach. Her glowing eyes met Taewon's. And I need you to make sure the truth isn't forgotten this time. Taewon understood. Your records. The pattern you found. Yes, the Academy has been preparing for this invasion for centuries. Some faction within it wants these beings to come through. They think they can control them, use their power. She shook her head. They're wrong. I've seen what's on the other side. You can't go back alone, Sunmi said. I have to. I'm the only one who can survive in there long enough to place the device. Commander Kim looked at her old friend. You know I'm right, Sunmi. I was made for this. As Jinho worked to modify the Thanatos protocol based on Commander Kim's instructions, Taewon sat with her. All those battles, he said quietly. All those centuries of fighting. It was leading to this. Yes, she agreed. I think I always knew there was a purpose to my endless survival. Now I understand what it is. To save humanity one last time. She smiled, the glow in her eyes flickering. Not just to save it, Professor. To wake it up. To make it see the truth about the Academy. About the forces that have been manipulating us. She placed a hand on his arm. That's your job now. My legacy. When the modified device was ready, Commander Kim prepared to leave. She looked at each of them in turn. The Academy will fall today, she said. But something will replace it. Make sure it's something better. Taewon nodded. I will. I promise. As she turned to go, he asked one last question. After all these centuries, all these battles, are you afraid? Commander Kim paused at the door. I've died many times, Professor. But this is the first time I've chosen when and how. The light within her pulsed stronger. It's not a bad way to end. They watched her walk away, her figure glowing brighter as she moved toward the distant light of the breach, the woman who couldn't die making her final sacrifice. Taewon clutched the data chip containing her records, her true legacy. The pattern she had discovered. The truth about the Academy and its centuries of manipulation. What now? Sunmi asked softly. Now we make sure her story is told, Taewon replied. All of it. The Academy's most vicious warfare files have been reviewed, and she was the recurring survivor in all of them. Until she chose to be something more. In the distance, the strange light at the Academy flared brilliantly, then collapsed in on itself. Commander Kim had completed her final mission, and Taewon would ensure that this time the truth would survive with her.